We live in a society where people care for each other. Parents may care the way their kid behaves, a boss may care about the performance of an employee, and even something as simple as being a girl or a boy reserves judgments and opinions. Gender identity to one has been a private matter ever since they are born. In this video, we'll be looking at how one's psychosexual and psychosocial development contributed to shaping their gender identity.
Social construct theory. Gender is viewed as a social construct that is performative. The view of gender can be seen from many different perspectives. Each individual has their own personal identity. This would also relate to George Kelly's work regarding personal construct theory, which proposes that each person has their own constructions of the world, including what their own personal identities are. Judith put forward an argument that gender is only socially temporary, that members of society are compelled to follow due to social taboos and social sanctions, which is what she meant by performative. There are three concepts that she talks about within her theory, which are sex or gender, feminist and phenomenology views. Judith here talks about Simone de Beauvoir's view about the body and how it is seen as an embodiment of certain cultures and historical beliefs. Individuals that do not follow this construct will be sanctioned by the community. What is highlighted here is that our bodies are restrained by social constructions of how the body is perceived, although in Beauvoir's theory, it's emphasized regarding women's bodies, binary genders, and the heterosexual contract. Here, Judith talks about the binary construct, and the heterosexual construct is made to serve the purpose of reproduction. Judith mentions how these gender scripts are already constructed and implemented even before the individual is born. But this doesn't mean that she believes gender is merely a cultural aspect, nor that it is a full individual act. The body and gender here is culturally restricted, but the interpretations that individuals have are subjective. Feminist theory, beyond an expressive model of gender. Judith here criticizes the lack of critique towards gender constitution feminist theory. This part talks about how gender isn't just a passive script within us, it's not just by nature, language and history. That it is under constraint in our daily lives, even if in the now it is seen as something inborn.
Freud's psychosexual theory talks about 5 central stages: the oral stage, the anal stage, the phallic stage, the genital stage, and the latency stage. These stages, as Freud claimed, will emerge later on in the mature sexual activity of an adult. Meanwhile, in Erikson's psychosocial theory, he has conceptualized 8 different stages of development: trust versus mistrust,
Hope,
autonomy versus shame and doubt,
will,
initiative versus guilt,
purpose,
industry versus inferiority,
competence,
identity versus real confusion,
fidelity,
intimacy versus isolation,
love,
generativity versus stagnation,
care,
and integrity versus despair. As Erikson claims, a psychologically healthy individual will pass these stages, just like milestones.
When we talk about gender identity, we may, for example, in the latency stage, lack the opportunity to understand and to feel uncomfortable with our sexual aspect and our nature. This we feel doubt. As a young child, dependent on opinions for guidance, we happen to turn to face a society that may look down upon this said nature. And in guilt, we repress these desires instead. However, the older we get, we become more independent and we may pass the milestone of gaining more autonomy. A support system of our friends and perhaps family being supportive and accepting of us. And this will help us maximize our opportunity to express ourselves more in the gender identity we are comfortable in. What we must understand, not just as an individual but as a society, is that we will come back to our childhood to redeem the repressed impulses, desires, and opinions. And we have to do it in a peaceful manner in adulthood to finally become comfortable in our skin and especially of our gender identity.